Good morning. Welcome to Unity Spirituality Center in New Orleans. Charles Dickens began his classic Tale of Two Cities with a famous quote that I think we can all relate to this week. It goes like this: It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epic of belief, it was the epic of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven. We were all going direct the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period that some of its noisiest authorities insisted on its being received for good or evil in the superlative degree of comparison only. End of quote. Sounds like words that could have been written about this week, right? We all know why some people could say the negative things in that quote. But let's don't forget why the positive aspects of today's or any situation need to be remembered. All challenges offer tremendous opportunities for growth and for developing wisdom and strength. The worst of times always have been embedded in the opportunities to be the best of times, even if it's in retrospect that we realize that it was really for the best. I know you all have had situations in your life that you thought were pretty bad at the time, but you look back and realized what good they did. These are challenging times, but challenges can catapult us into great transformation. Even the obvious, developing patience, understanding, compassion, and learning to be very present and observe ourselves in order to transform. The major themes of Dickens' classic novels about the best of times and the worst of times dealt with the economic and political unrest in Paris and London, which led to the American and French revolutions. Many have said that the novel is somewhat modern, despite the fact that it was written about 18th century France and England. As I've talked to people this week, I would venture to say that we are dealing with some of the same themes right here in New Orleans. Some people are depressed and they're scared and they're negative. Others are peaceful, geared up for a challenge, and optimistic. Many are a little of both, depending on the day or their mood. Let's look deeper at that. As was the case in England and France at the time of the setting of Dickens' Great Expectations, there has been economic despondency in our country this week. The stock market took a big hit in response to the economic reality of businesses closing and the loss of jobs, and many people are feeling fearful and despondent. Yet, many people are grateful because they were assured they would be paid anyway. And schools and businesses are grateful for technology as they gear up to go on via computers. Many, many companies around the country are offering all kinds of free educational programs to deal with this. Virtual schools, virtual businesses in the midst of layoffs and stock market crashing. It's the best of times. It's the worst of times. The worst of times might include the fact that teachers and employees are having to learn lots of new technology, and some have lost work. But the best of time is that many people are not losing hours every day commuting, going to their jobs. They have to get dressed, have to take the trains, have to drive, have to get there. This means that extra sleep is something that they can enjoy, which boosts the immune system, the best of times. The stock market lost more than it has in years this week, the worst of times. And then it soared 1,000 in a day and made some people wealthier overnight. They may have thought it was the best of times. Many of us have had friends and loved ones who have already had the coronavirus and are well and back to normal now, so it doesn't seem so scary as it did or it might have been a few weeks ago when many people thought it was going to be like the plague for everyone. I was personally very disappointed when it was recommended that we do our civic and moral duty and not have classes or services here at Unity. It felt like the worst of times, but now it seems like a new technological adventure. We can be very grateful that technology has advanced to the point where we can still meet together, even if we aren't sitting side by side. Such have been some of the outward circumstances of highs and lows this week. My point is that our thinking creates our reality, and we need to remember if negative thoughts surface, that there are positives to every situation in life if we will just stop, look, and listen. If you can't think of them, pray. Ask God to help you see the situation differently. The answers are always there. You just have to raise your antenna to access them. Answers and wisdom are always there. Keep the faith. Then there are the inner highs and lows. Many people who are constantly on the run and busy may feel depressed because they can't stay active all the time. Yet, they might look back someday and be grateful because they were forced to spend more time alone in self reflection and prayer and meditation. Some Puritan fundamentalist type preachers, like those of the 18th century, told their congregations something that maybe has crossed your mind and you've had a feeling about. They told their congregations that God had inflicted such things as the plague and war and famine on their people because they had sinned. Hopefully, this thought has not crossed your mind. This is not the way God works. It might be our karma if we contract the virus because maybe we didn't care for our immune systems or think positively, stressed out, or we didn't observe basic guidelines that the medical profession's advocating. But we don't believe in any punishing God that inflicts this virus on us. Some in the medical field trace coronavirus back to those who visited New Orleans for Mardi Gras. Maybe an 18th century preacher could have had a heyday with that one, but that preacher would be wrong. Maybe it seems like the worst of times in some ways, but it is not due to God's wrath. God is love. Every spiritual path teaches this. Only man has misinterpreted the scriptures, often due to a desire to manipulate others. This pandemic is just another hurdle to overcome and become stronger and wiser because of. People who ascribe to the best of times side of the coin are saying that we are forced to spend long overdue time with our families and that this is good. Parents are spending time helping their children with homework. They're eating together. They're just being together. Many children are feeling more cared for and secure because of this. This can be a true healing elixir for many families. They can be the support and security that is always needed, but that is often not happening because of the frenzied lifestyle that many lead. There is much good that can come of this. It can be the best of times. Spiritually, too, it can be the best of times, and it can be the worst. We know at Unity that everything can be used as grist for the mill. True, some people are dealing with fear about the virus and about their economic situation. The rest of us can learn to be support for these individuals. We must develop our compassion and our true sense of spiritual responsibility. If you aren't needing help, and I hope if you do, you reach out. But if you don't, you are very much needed. Make those phone calls to friends and family and neighbors. Help them. Walk them through their negativity and fear. Just listen. Usually their biggest fear is that no one cares. They may not understand Unity ideas, but they will understand your caring, and you can share unity ideas in the form of pure, practical wisdom. For example, sharing with them the idea that our thoughts create our reality. Prepare for some yes buts, but know that your caring is the true wisdom and medicine that they probably need. The best of times spiritually can also include for you learning to be very present and observant of your negative thoughts and feelings. Having more time to do this can lead you to great peace and understanding because you can begin to identify where these fears and sense of helplessness come from, usually from childhood. But you are no longer children, and you are no longer helpless. Even if you contract the coronavirus, the chances are very low that you will die. And this is a time with less need to run around in our usual frenzy when many of us can spend more time in prayer and meditation and spiritual reading and discussing it with our friends. It's kind of a forced Lent. It is also a time when we can spend the time we used to spend in traffic reaching out to our spiritual friends and sharing with them. Consider spending an hour a day talking with your spiritual buddies, your Sangha, about some spiritual idea that you've been wanting to concentrate on. This time of forced quarantine is a time when many of you might more easily be able to watch your thoughts and remember how you have control of these thoughts. Practice this control. You aren't your thoughts. You aren't your thoughts. They just happen. They are like text messages that come and go all day long in your head. You decide whether or not to read the text messages or not, believe them or not, answer them or not, or live by them or not. That is a fundamental unity belief, which co-founders Charles and Myrtle Fillmore emphasized. We are in control of our thoughts, not which ones we have, but which ones we believe and let into and control our lives. Again, your thoughts create your life. So every time you have a negative or fearful thought, delete it or substitute a hopeful one. For example, if you think about the mass hysteria that some people are experiencing about the coronavirus or the volatile economy, substitute it with thoughts of how many people are happy about having very needed time to be with their families or more time to do what they need and want to do since the daily commutes are cut back. Or think about all the people who have already had coronavirus and are happily going about their business now, healthy as ever. You have control of your thinking. You also can be happy that you have a great deal of control over whether or not you get the virus in the first place. I'm sure you've all read the literature. Wash your hands, stay out of crowds. Yes, you have control over these things, and you also have a great deal of control over your own immune system. Our great hospitals and medical care are the best in the world if we really get sick, but if we take control of our natural immune systems, we'll greatly reduce our chances of actually contracting the virus. We can sleep more, drink more water, eat better, reduce stress by meditating more and thinking right. We can even consider following our Unity co-founders' examples because they cured themselves of medical problems that doctors had declared incurable. They were strict vegetarians. They didn't touch alcohol. They meditated an hour a night. Maybe you could try some of these things during the Lenten season. I was just talking with one of our beloved members at Unity here, eye surgeon Dr. Holly Grove, and she said that some very simple things can greatly boost our natural immune system. In addition to no alcohol or drugs or plenty of sleep and reducing stress through meditation, she also suggested cutting out sugar. And if you have to eat meat, eat just a little and make sure it's organic meat. The point is that we can all consider ways at this time that we can think and eat and live more healthy lives. Bottom line, if your daily life is quarantined, consider turning it into a mini spiritual retreat. Even an hour a day retreat is wonderful. Maybe during that time you can live like they used to at Unity Village when the Fillmores lived there. No meat, no alcohol, all pure food, and an hour a day of meditation with a good dose of spiritual reading and family time. This could indeed turn into the best of times. Now, I absolutely do not want to trivialize the situation we are all dealing with. Even if the virus itself isn't something you fear, the economic fallout may have you worried. There are lots of people being laid off. I know many already. They need your help and encouragement. Remember that one of the laws of prosperity is to tithe your time, your resources, anything you can spare. There are many ways that you can convert the worst of times to the best of times, for you and for others. Giving boosts your immune system. Giving. Because it creates happiness in you and the recipient. It boosts your immune system. Remember how we all band together during Hurricane Katrina? We talked to strangers and helped everyone, and everyone helped us. Someone in a restaurant in Oklahoma where I evacuated heard that I was from New Orleans and paid for my lunch. When I went to pay the waitress, she said it was taken care of. A teacher in Oklahoma in the Goodwill store where I was replacing the lime green shoes that I had evacuated in heard that I had gotten a Goodwill sponsored apartment that day and asked me if I had any furniture in it. I didn't. 2 days later, all the teachers in her school collected furniture and necessities and delivered them to my apartment. I still use the coffee pot that they brought, and I think of them every day. I have passed these acts of goodwill forward many times, and it feels great every time. Practice the unity law of prosperity and help those in need right now. There is so much good that we can spin out of times like these if we'll just open up to the opportunities. We can actually convert the worst of times to the best of times. People need you. You need people. It's time to reach out for help, and it's time to give help. We'll all be richer for it. There are people who have lost their jobs who might think it's the end of the world. You might be the one who can guide them to other options. Maybe they don't even know about unemployment or food stamps or shopping at Goodwill, or maybe the $1,000 that I heard the government was considering sending to all of us. There is the postponement of income tax due date, etc. Remind those in need that there is hope. There is always hope, and especially that you're there for them. And think about it. We made it through the American Revolution, the Civil War, the First and Second World Wars, Vietnam, Hurricane Katrina. Economically, we made it through the Great Depression of 1929 and the economic turndown of the 1980s. The coronavirus will end, and things always go back to normal. What we need in the meantime is to keep our peace, keep our faith, and to figure out how to use these circumstances as grist for the mill to grow from. And there is always a way. There will be many opportunities to learn more about yourself. And remember, when you are challenged, don't despair. Turn it over to God to help you see it differently. You can learn to transmute your tendency to go into fear, despondency, or anger by seeing situations and other people differently. Most of what we fear or dislike about others is their fear and its manifestations. And what we don't like about most situations is that we see them through our own lens of fear or despondency. When you take the time to see this, it can help you develop compassion. It can help you reduce stress in your own life, which is a great immune system builder. Remember that stress is the common denominator of all diseases. Beneath the negativity and fear and stress of all people is a Christ, a Christ being just waiting to manifest. Remember that about others and remember that about yourself. Maybe these are times when you can superimpose that Christ image on others as they are crying out, maybe even being disagreeable or attacking you. And remember, when you look into the mirror, to see the Christ in you and not all of society's uninformed reactions to maybe your negativity or fear that at times may manifest. Most of us lived through Hurricane Katrina, and we will live through Corona. How we do it is up to us. We can have faith or we can succumb to mass hysteria. I say we've just got another war going on, a war between our higher and lower selves, as in the Hindu Bhagavad Gita. We can succumb to the enemy, our tendency to lose faith, get negative, let our lower selves get grouchy, depressed, and fearful. Or we can let our higher selves gain control over the situation by refusing to buy into the fearful, negative, and hopeless thoughts. This too shall pass. But more than just waiting for it to pass, we have the great opportunity to renew and strengthen our faith that it is truly the best of all possible worlds, and to recommit to our spiritual path and apply the great spiritual principles, which always and in all times work. Don't think about these principles. Don't analyze them. Don't debate them. Just do them. That is the big secret. Put them into effect, and you'll see for yourself that they work. Faith, love, hope, and charity. The mass psychosis that the French theater of the absurd talked about when the Nazis were occupying France for several years was fear, frenzy, hopelessness, and despair. Well, the Nazis were defeated and left France, and coronavirus will leave us too. In the meantime, use whatever comes as added fuel to transform yourself. There are 1 trillion cells in your physical body awaiting your direction. And share this wisdom with those who need it. All the answers to all the problems are extant in the universe right now as we speak. Stop, pray, and meditate. Open yourself up to these ever-present answers. Be still and know that you are a receptor, an antenna for this wisdom, this truth. All you have to do is ask, and it shall be given. Just get quiet so that you can perceive these ever-present, eternal answers. For them to be translated into the material plane, you need to get quiet and tune into the absolute plane where they are. So, this week, work on making the worst of times the best of times in your life. It can be a wonderful learning opportunity, and it is 100% possible. Commit to it. Stay on course and look at every new seemingly negative as grist for the mill. It will make you stronger. We're not talking about denial or sticking your head in the sand. We're talking about genuine alchemy here. Use whatever is there to transform yourself. Gurdjieff, a Sufi, used to have spiritual followers who at times would get complacent when everything was going too smoothly in their group. So Gurdjieff, at those times, would go out into the nearby town and pay some really negative, difficult person to come into his group and stir things up and make things difficult. That way people had something to work on, something to overcome, someone who would help them see what triggered them so they could deal with it and learn to overcome it. Well, no one has to go out and pay someone to come today and create a problem for us to work on. We have free grist for the mill. We shall overcome. And when we do, we'll be stronger and wiser and further along spiritually because of it. So let's stop now and do what has been talked about. This is our time of meditation. our time to be at one with God, Spirit. I ask that you stop what you are doing and get very quiet. Close your physical eyes. This is not the time to learn anything. It's that pure essence of lifetime when nothing, absolutely nothing, comes between you and your source. You are one with it. This is your natural state, oneness with all life, oneness with God. Take a deep breath, then exhale slowly. Relax. Inhale truth, love, and goodness. Exhale doubt, negativity, and fear. Inhale. Exhale. Think to yourself, I walk with God today. I place my hand in God's, ready to listen to God's answers, willing to go where God leads. No longer do I hesitate or hold back from life's experiences, pleasant or unpleasant. I know that life is all an adventure, and as with all adventures, there are challenges and restful moments. And like climbing a mountain or swimming across a river, there are moments of ease and currents to be crossed. But it is all part of the adventure and will lead me to my destination. I know that I have with me a loving companion, a wonderful guide who knows the way. In truth, the way is always known. I just have to open up to it. I relax and become receptive and responsive to the guidance that comes to me. I know that I will be shown how to deal with the issues of life. God's way is revealed to me as I open myself to God's light that shines within me. I go often to my inner cathedral to sit in the silence and open up to the answers that I need. In my cathedral, I remember to turn my spiritual, mental, and emotional self completely over to Spirit, God, Source. Walking with God, I am free to enjoy the good that I meet along the way. I am free to learn from the seeming challenges. There is nothing to fear as I walk with God. God's way is the way of love. As I follow the path of love, I find that it leads me safely through every situation. My life becomes one of joy and fulfillment as I carry the blessing of God's presence with me. I walk with God through this day, and I am safely led along life's way. Dear God, I come to you in my hour of need. I ask you to touch my mind and uplift my thoughts. Change my seeming realities. Change my opinion of what is and what can be. I ask that you give me a sense of well-being again. I pray that you help me find my smile again, both on my face and in my soul. I cannot do this by myself, so I turn my life over to you and I surrender. And by surrendering, I inherit strength like I have never known, wisdom like I have never known, and health in mind and body. And I am so grateful. In thy name I pray. Amen. Thank you so much for being with us this Sunday morning. And I encourage all of you to watch your email. First of all, we're going to be sending all kinds of things in the coming weeks out to you for additional spiritual reflection. I also ask you to watch for the link to Unity Worldwide, to their website that we'll be sending to you, so you can go there and access all kinds of things, maybe to replace the classes and the services that we have at Unity. It'll be a different kind of spiritual growth. And I also highly encourage you to go to our Unity of New Orleans website too. We'll be sending you that link. So please watch your emails, because we've got all kinds of things on our own site, including hundreds of truth lessons that I've given and other people have given in the last 6 years. They're all there, and many videos to watch, many inspirational talks and suggestions of books and so forth. So you have a wealth of things that you can access right now and soon to come. So thank you so much for being with us, and stay tuned. You'll be hearing from us a lot more in the future. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.